All right, Bismillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Everyone, thank you for joining us again today on our episode of Teens, Tech, and AI. We have an amazing guest today. You're probably looking at he's not a teen, but we'll get into it. He's a teen in spirit. And let Ahmed take over and introduce himself. Ahmed, Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thanks a lot, Abdulaziz. Thank you. Yeah, I have a preteen here at home, so I'm far from being a teen myself, definitely. Thanks, but I would love to help in any way that I can. Thank you for doing this, and thanks for this great initiative. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Thank you so
Alhamdulillah.
much. So I think like part of what we just want to start with is give us a little background about yourself, anything you feel like sharing. Mostly take us back, way back, on those things we can't find on LinkedIn, on those things we can't find anywhere. Take us back. Where were you born? How did the old formative years for you start?
Sure. So I'm currently in the Seattle area in Washington. I
Mm-hmm.
was born and raised in Egypt, in Cairo, Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I grew.
Mm-hmm.
I used to fly around and travel a lot when I was a young kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to do a lot of sports
Okay.
with my dad.
Okay.
Um, um, when we were not doing that,
Mm-hmm.
I was mostly staying at home playing games. Games were completely different back then, though.
Okay.
Uh, our games were things like uh, trying to come up with names that people might know, Pac-Man and
Mm-hmm.
Space Invaders and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. The cool thing about them is that uh, there was no storyline, so you
Mm-hmm.
could basically play a game for a while and end it. But we
Mm-hmm.
mostly ended up playing games for a good portion of the day as well, which is what's happening nowadays too.
That's super interesting then. Like if you say like you grew up in Egypt, I think like maybe a lot of people's perspective maybe about like Egypt and other places like how did a kid like you in Egypt like even get access to games or stuff like back in the days? Whoa.
They were accessible. So
Mm-hmm.
back then, before the slew of the new consoles, we had Atari.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we had Game and Watch, which were like handheld, dedicated gaming device that was preloaded with
Mm-hmm.
a particular game.
Yes.
And those were the ways that we played. We used to exchange basically those things. We used to
Mm-hmm.
exchange those devices
Mm-hmm.
as kids. So
Mm-hmm.
we play with one for a while and then go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Take it with you, exchange it with a friend. You'd agree on, I'll give you this game, you give me that game, play
Yeah.
with it for a while, and then exchange them again. Take your game, exchange it with someone else, and so on and so forth. And pretty much the same thing with the
Mm-hmm.
Atari cartridges as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we used to do the same thing with those too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they weren't that many back then in the
Mm-hmm.
first place, but it
Mm-hmm.
was a good point. Then came computers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
first Sinclair and Commodore 64.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, pretty uh, basic computers back then, but they were
Mm-hmm.
revolutionary for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was kind of interesting at
Mm-hmm.
first.
Mm-hmm.
We had these books that basically had code in them,
Okay.
uh, and you would start learning about code and writing code and seeing what's happening on the screen. And then there were
Mm-hmm.
some samples. Some samples were actually games, so you start actually looking at those and writing code to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was great when floppy drives, when
Mm-hmm.
we were able to actually buy a floppy, basically a disk drive, and start using floppy disks, because it meant that now you could actually copy and save games as well and be able to replay them again without having to type first, or as in basically code,
Mm-hmm.
write the code first and then run it.
Mm-hmm.
The programming language was basic, basically, at
Mm-hmm.
the time. So
Mm-hmm.
it was quite interesting. And going through that, I got
Mm-hmm.
interested actually in understanding coding and development as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
I first started by actually typing. My
Mhm.
uncle, we used to travel quite a bit. My uncle actually used to work as an electrical engineer here in the
Mhm.
US. He's the one that designed actually most of the grid on the West Coast.
Mhm.
When I used to visit him,
Mhm.
he would he would basically run simulations,
Mhm.
and when he goes back home, he would write reports on his computer. So I started first by typing on his
Mhm.
computer, and then
Mhm.
he started showing me games.
Mhm.
There was Prince running on an Apple
Mhm.
at the time.
Mhm.
um, so all dot matrix,
Mhm.
very fuzzy graphics. So started
Mhm.
working with that, started playing with that. So when I
Mhm.
started coding, I sort
Mhm.
of uh, had an understanding a little bit
Mhm.
of what was going on in the background, as we had
Mhm.
talked about it and explained
Mhm.
it, understanding that all these are computations. But
Mhm.
then it got a lot more interesting as
Mhm.
I learned along the way.
Hmm. Interesting. But then, like, I mean, like back then when you were a child, I would assume like there were so many things you could have done, right? Maybe go out and play soccer or
Yeah,
do something else, do something physical, do just like multiple things. Maybe that's not even possible now. Like, what were other things that were available back then, and why was like games where you like moved towards?
sure. So it was. So honestly, I didn't spend my whole life playing games.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically speaking, sports was the most probably taking the majority of my time.
Mm-hmm.
One, it was the way for my dad and I to
Mm-hmm.
bond.
Mm-hmm.
He was into sports. He used to be a boxing champion, so
Okay.
he was quite athletic,
Mm-hmm.
and used to wake up every morning, go for a 5K run, and
Mm-hmm.
then start the day. So he would make wake me up very early.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we would pray Fajr, and then get ready, and then start, and then go for the run. Basically go to the gym, go for a
Mm-hmm.
swim, then have
Mm-hmm.
breakfast and start the day. That was his routine
Interesting.
during the week. But that basically meant that I got the sports
For free.
out of the picture for free very
Mm-hmm.
early in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
I had the rest of the day. So some days I would just stay and play soccer and
Mm-hmm.
squash for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and the days that I stayed home, it was
Mm-hmm.
like gaming, playing games most of the time. The two options when staying home at the time was playing games
Mm-hmm.
or watching movies
Mm-hmm.
or reading stories. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
combination of all of that, but
I
games
see.
was most probably taking the majority of it.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. So then I guess like even before I compare that moment to like now and all of those things with games, sort of what did playing those games, learning all of those things with your uncle, next, what did that make you do? What was like the next progression after all of that?
So honestly, after all of that,
Mm-hmm.
I sort of stopped when I got into my early teens.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped playing games
Okay.
for a bit. I was
Mm-hmm.
focused more on sports, soccer, and
Mm-hmm.
squash during that
Mm-hmm.
period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that sort of continued until I finished high school
Mm-hmm.
and got into university.
Mm-hmm.
I got into university. I
Mm-hmm.
originally, I wanted to be an engineer like my
Mm-hmm.
dad, but what I thought of at the time was um, being an aerospace engineer.
Yes.
I was always fascinated by flight and space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I when I joined the university when I joined the university in Egypt, there was no aerospace engineering field. So the
Mm-hmm.
second thing that came to mind was mechanical engineering.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the year, I found that I was in a liberal arts school, so we
Mm-hmm.
were taking a lot of different subjects in the first year,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized I'm spending the majority of my time in the computer science lab, just sitting there playing around, writing code, doing a bunch of different things,
Mm-hmm.
mostly trying to, write something new that
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
didn't learn and wasn't part of our assignment. Then we were a group of friends sitting
Mm-hmm.
there doing that until
Mm-hmm.
one of us, and none of us was actually a computer science major.
Interesting.
We were all like economics, engineering,
Mm-hmm.
business administration, so a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
different other majors, but none of
Mm-hmm.
us was actually planning on declaring as a computer science major.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we looked at each other, and it's like we were the only ones left in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
All the
Mm-hmm.
computer science students were out of the lab, and we were the
Mm-hmm.
only ones still there, and we're the only ones that were always there.
Hmm.
So one of us said one day, I mean, it doesn't make sense for us actually to be doing whatever it is that we're doing. It seems that we're really enjoying this. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, I'm actually thinking about it. I'm really enjoying this.
Uh-huh.
We should definitely do that.
Hmm.
So I went and I switched my intention at the time. Actually, we all did, and we
Interesting.
switched to computer science. Yeah,
All of you switched to computer science.
yeah.
Wow.
That's
So take us back then. I would assume like the way computers were back then and those labs were back then. Can you even share like some details of even like how your friendship was with those friends? How did you even find them? And even a little more details if you can remember, but like what you were really even doing in those labs back then.
yeah. So when we started, I think we all met in the lab.
Ah,
That's where we all met.
interesting.
Yeah, that's where we met and where we bonded. We met in computer science lab. I mean, the great thing about our school was that the labs were open all
Mm-hmm.
day long.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you could basically just go in, get on a machine, and do whatever it is that you want.
Hmm.
So we had free access to
Mm-hmm.
the technology at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I know it's hard to believe, but back
Mm-hmm.
then not everyone actually had PCs at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, they were still coming out. They were super expensive and all that. I think I was like, it was a big thing when I actually got a PC the
Mm-hmm.
following year
Hmm.
at home. So, and I think it was mostly because I was spending way too much time at school and coming back home very late because I was
Hmm.
always in the computer lab that my parents decided at the time just to buy me a PC at home so I could spend a bit more time at home.
Interesting.
Uh,
Wow.
so so that was the
Mhm.
interesting thing about it
Mhm.
in terms of what we did.
Mhm.
We were trying different things. So
Mhm.
at the time, I mean, we're starting, I
Mhm.
mean, being always fascinated by games, we were
Mhm.
always trying to understand a little bit more
Mhm.
how to do interesting graphics. At least from my perspective, I was
Mhm.
always interested a lot in graphics and
Mhm.
being able to actually generate images and manipulate objects on the
Mhm.
screen.
Mhm.
So understanding that, seeing how the basic language constructs and
Mhm.
using a language and using an interpreted language to do that, it was
Mhm.
extremely
Mhm.
slow. While when I'm playing games, actually,
Mhm.
no, I'm seeing that the interaction is a lot better. The
Mhm.
program is a lot more responsive and all of that.
Mhm.
So I started digging a little bit more into that and trying to learn about that. Again, I mean, no internet, nothing to
Mhm.
search at the time. So
Mhm.
you're talking
Mhm.
to people, you're trying to figure out stuff, you're trying to find books in Egypt related to the topics that you're looking for.
Mhm.
So I started understanding, a little bit more that, yeah, for me to actually write something that's more performant, I need to
Mhm.
go lower and be able to deal with the hardware directly. So using a language like assembly to actually
Mhm.
do a lot of this stuff and dealing with the processor directly. So I started looking into all the different assembly instructions
Mhm.
and interrupts that can help me actually manipulate the memory associated with the graphics card and be able to actually up, modify that directly and
Mhm.
insert different images there directly. And
Mhm.
at first things looked horrible, and
Mhm.
I remember quite well. Um, my I was doing it at home, and my
Mhm.
uncle walking by one
Mhm.
day and seeing me do a few things and basically,
Mhm.
like um, generate fireworks on the screen or something like that. And
Mhm.
he's like, yeah, that's great. And then he's like, yeah, I know when I'm going to be back here next year, there's going to
Mhm.
be a full animation going on. And fair enough. Next time he came by, there were shadows, multiple objects moving at the same time,
Mhm.
like a little sheer moving over the image with
Uh-huh.
fireworks in the background, text, and it's like, yeah, great. I know, next week I'm most probably going to be something else. And yeah, fair enough. I started integrating, started generating images
Mm-hmm.
separately, polishing them and integrating them. So now I had metal textures and things like that. So it was just that progression over time, learning bit
Mm-hmm.
by bit on your
Mm-hmm.
own. I guess things that we take for granted now, and
Mm-hmm.
things that the newer generations can generate in
Mm-hmm.
minutes,
Mm-hmm.
took us months and
Hmm.
weeks and months to learn back then, and try to do. So it was quite interesting, doing and learning these things. Like, for me today,
Mm-hmm.
when I
Mm-hmm.
look at code,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes uh, when I'm working with developers, I look at
Mm-hmm.
code, I'm like, do you understand the cost of this instruction? This one line that you have. It's like, there, there are tons of optimizations that we
Mm-hmm.
can do here and make this
Mm-hmm.
run a lot faster. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the things that I enjoy doing, is like, okay,
Hmm.
how can I actually squeeze a lot more out of this, make it run faster, make it more optimized? And I think it goes back to a lot of what I did in my early days in school, and that sort of carried forward for me afterwards, in work and business as well.
Interesting. But you seem to be describing things that seem difficult, but they seem to you like fun. Like generating those images, I wouldn't assume they would have been easy. I would assume there would be some calculations and some stuff you had to do to make them move and do all of those. Why was something that seems that even still now seems maybe even difficult, back then seemed like fun for you and like you were still like doing it as a kid? You could just say, I don't want to do this, go do something else. Why did you keep doing those things?
It was the same thing. So if you come to think of it, programming was a lot like gaming, in the sense that you get that instant gratification
Mhm,
from doing something, seeing it happen, seeing it succeed, and then you get to
mhm,
the next level, you try to
mhm,
actually do a little bit more, and so on and so forth.
mhm.
So well, I know we talk a lot about the gamification of different concepts today,
Yeah.
but for me, I felt that it was already gamified. If I'm working on these things, it's like I'm
Mhm,
doing something
mhm,
and I see the results and I've succeeded. Like, I set a goal, I was able to get to that goal within
mhm,
a couple of hours. Awesome, great. Next goal, another couple
hmm,
of another couple of hours or a couple of days, and you get there, and so on and so forth. So
hmm,
that was yeah. Alhamdulillah, I think that was the thing that kept me interested in that, is that um, there was always something else to do, and when you do
mhm,
that, it was great.
mhm,
We always, I like, between friends as well,
mhm,
and
mhm,
people at the lab,
mhm,
we play tricks on each other. So
mhm,
it was kind of fun. Like,
mhm,
okay, what can I do next to sort of trick
mhm,
these guys, or
mhm,
what can I do next to get back at what they did at me
mhm, mhm,
last week, and so on and so
mhm,
forth.
mhm,
So you start building those benign viruses that do
mhm,
nothing, while actually imitating that they're erasing someone's drive or something like that, things like this. So you start. So, and for you to do these things, now I
mhm,
have to learn something new. I have to
mhm,
go learn about something else. Okay, how do
mhm,
I build a memory resident uh, program at the time, so
mhm,
that it continues running in the background on a 16-bit architecture, while another application is running in the foreground, and things like
mhm,
that. So it was quite interesting. You got to learn about operating systems, you got
mhm,
to learn about graphics and
mhm,
manipulating graphics, you got to
mhm.
learn about uh, optimizing storage on the hard drive, and all of that, without necessarily thinking about the fact that you're learning about these things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. One thing that you kept mentioning that seems to keep coming back to me is the value of like friends, even friends in like in the lab, in choosing to to do computer science, with friends helping you go deeper in like your learnings of like
Yeah.
games and all of that. Like, what do you remember that sort of like helped you like create that type of like group of friends, or even what made you also a good part of that group of friends?
I think we had, like, the common thing was our quest for knowledge, or quest
Mm-hmm,
for getting better at programming and software development in general.
mm-hmm,
Uh, Generally, I mean, they're all awesome, good people. So you
Mm-hmm.
sort of tend to gravitate towards people that you feel you have something in common with and you feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, we were different in our
Mm-hmm.
own ways,
Mm-hmm.
yet we were all interested in very similar things
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. But
Mm-hmm.
and we shared a core set of values and beliefs as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which was quite important there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the support that the friends give, I mean, uh, one, they provide feedback. Two,
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
providing support along the journey. Like
Mm-hmm.
you go for a run, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like to go for a run. They just want to be in nature. They want
Mm-hmm.
to be alone and
Mm-hmm.
listen to that. There are others that actually go with and run with friends, and they
Mm-hmm.
go and run in groups, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a completely different experience. They can
Yes.
most probably run a lot longer,
Yeah.
not feel uh you know uh the exhaustion
Yes.
as much, and it's a completely different experience. So yeah, I mean, having a group of friends that support
Mm-hmm.
each other along the way is
Mm-hmm.
definitely something that helps you go further.
Interesting. So talk to me then. Now we've gone through this kid who started with games, had a group of friends, went to college, moved into computer science, did a lot more digging into games and all of that. Now, walk us through what happens. Now you do a lot of this game stuff. What do you remember about some of like your moments of games that like really still stay with you during college? And what happens right after college into like your next steps?
So at some point in time in college, I think in my last year,
Mm.
again, I started working on my graduation project.
Mm-hmm.
I was already working as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the time that I could spend playing games
Mm-hmm.
just started diminishing,
Mm-hmm.
and it got close to zero.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, after after that, I started working. I mean, I joined a really small startup
Mm-hmm.
in Egypt at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and the interesting thing about it is that we were a very small startup in Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
but we were doing work for um, Microsoft, Adobe. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
large software companies of the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to work on really, really interesting projects.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to see and realize that, okay, a lot of the concepts that I had
Mm-hmm.
come in handy today.
Hmm.
So back then, we were building an application, and you need to build a toolbar. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that actually one of the main things that started this business
Mm-hmm.
was a toolbar that they built. So I'm
Hmm.
like, toolbar is just a bunch of buttons on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the implementation, no, it cannot be a bunch of buttons on the screen. That's going to be a
Hmm.
it's going to be a huge overhead. So it's
Yeah.
actually just one simple object, one simple window that sort of
Mm-hmm.
manages itself, manages its space, pastes different images. You know, it state when a button is pressed, when a button is unpressed.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is
Mm-hmm.
implemented again from scratch, and then you start
Mm-hmm.
theming that, you start styling that. So you got to see that, okay, a lot of concepts that we learned can start being applied again. I worked
Mm-hmm.
on one of the first business intelligence tools in the
Mm-hmm.
world, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to handle back then millions and millions and millions of records of data and be able to
Hmm.
pass them between client and server very, very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, okay, I need to start thinking about all the different things that I can do, how I can
Mm-hmm.
optimize that, how can I
Mm-hmm.
manage those data structures in memory, what do I need to pass back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
do I preload stuff, do I cache, so lots of the concepts came into play, a lot of them that we actually used in uh, building simple games and building
Mm-hmm.
those funny programs that we
Mm-hmm.
built around.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these concepts actually were came in quite handy when we were building real life, large scale enterprise solution or large scale products that are
Mm-hmm.
getting deployed everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We're building an add-in for Outlook, for example, or something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So all these concepts do actually, and all these patterns do translate and do
Mm-hmm.
use, and they come in quite useful. So that's when it sort of clicked that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all these things that I was, from what some people thought at the time I was wasting my time
Mm-hmm.
doing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
was actually super useful in
Mm-hmm.
getting me to learn and sort of sharpen my skills around building these certain things. Like a lot of things that people take for granted today, you make a call, you open up a web browser and make a
Mm-hmm.
call. There's a ton of stuff that's happening in the
Yeah.
background before that
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
I got to build all of that from scratch. I
Mm.
got to build the protocol. I got to build how the client and server in it basically
Yes.
communicated, how they
Mm-hmm.
handshake, how they
Mm-hmm.
established a connection, how it went. We did all of that from scratch back then. All
Mm-hmm.
we had was basically, the base IP protocol, and then we built on
Mm-hmm.
top of all of that.
Wow.
So it was actually quite interesting because to get anything done, we had
Yes.
to do all of this, which
Mm-hmm.
basically meant that when we started working on large projects, we knew the basics, we knew all of that, and we could actually optimize things and have them load very quickly on machines that were,
Pretty slow.
you know, super slow.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So I guess like this thing you just said now is actually pointing me in like two directions. I think we sort of like even jumped even into how you got your first job. But do you even remember how that came about? How did you get that your first job? How did that happen?
Sure. So it was actually quite interesting. A really, really, really good friend of mine who
Mm-hmm.
was my university professor. I mean, he's my university professor at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember quite well. He was my C plus. He was my C and C plus plus professor. Um, and I love that class because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for me, the introduction to C plus plus and C was like, wow, it's like all that stuff that I was working around doing in assembly.
Mm-hmm.
I can get sort of the same speed and everything
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with a fraction of the time spent to write that code,
Yes.
writing it in C and C plus plus, and
Mm-hmm.
then leveraging object oriented language in C plus plus to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we clicked really well. We
Mm.
we had a very 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 good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So during I think my junior year,
Yes.
he got us an internship at a company that he was working on at the time. It
Mm.
was a German Egyptian company that was doing a lot of basically automation for production automation or
Mm-hmm.
production line automation for
Mm-hmm.
large manufacturing firms. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the first thing,
Mm.
or that was the sort of like the first internship that I had
Mm-hmm.
related to the field
Mm-hmm.
that I worked in. I had always been working. I was always interested in that. My dad was an entrepreneur, so it was
Mm-hmm.
sort of uh,
Just
in
in
my
there.
genes, if you would say.
Uh-huh.
And I've been always trying different things
Mm-hmm.
since I was maybe 11 or 12.
Mm.
Um, but that was my first real job, and it was super interesting, and I did
Mm-hmm.
really well. And then in
Mm-hmm.
our senior year,
Mm-hmm.
um, he basically approached me and asked me if I
Mm-hmm.
want to join this company, this new startup that he's currently working with,
Mm-hmm.
and that he already set up an interview
Mm.
for me.
Mm.
And the interview was super interesting because I
Mm-hmm.
walked in the room. I met with the CEO and CTO of the
Mm-hmm.
company,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a discussion, a conversation about,
Mm-hmm.
when can I start and what can we do and all this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked, okay, when is the interview starting? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's done. Like, what do you guys mean? I'm like, well, Dr. Ahab recommended you. So if he recommended you, there's nothing for us to do here. So it's like, okay, great, thanks. So I thanked him for it. And basically the CEO of the company, it helped me in so many other ways. I mean, he taught me a lot about business. He's my mentor when it comes to that. And Ihab has always, for me, I mean, Dr. Ihab has always been like an example of how I should always conduct myself professionally and in business. One of the nicest people in the world, one of the most effective and efficient people in the world. And he always, whenever he's doing something, he always considers basically the value of what he's doing versus the consequences of that and the impact of that on the world, and then decides whether he should actually work on something and do it or not. So he's someone that I truly, truly admire, and I've always thought to sort of think like him when I'm thinking about these things.
That's very interesting that there is somebody who, like, as a young person, you actually could look up to, even like in school and all of that. But I guess like the question I want to bring into this conversation then is, what did basically like practical things that taught you on how you conduct yourself also like around like young people, like around teenagers now, from that teenage experience?
Uh, so I think one of the things that I learned from him is you sort of advise and teach by doing, not by basically telling or saying a lot. And that is one of the things that I try. If I do, I try to catch myself doing that and revert back, especially with my kids. With my kids, I sometimes, as a parent, yes, there's a percentage of time that you have to spend sort of being direct in your education and guidance as well. But I try my best not to do that, and try to use, personal examples to sort of showcase, lead by example versus actually telling most of the time. So that's one thing that I learned from that experience, or basically having those people around me to learn from, and being open to questions, because most of the time it was me actually starting the conversation and going and asking questions and digging deeper and trying to find out more. And I used to do that a lot with my dad as well. I mean, my dad had basically a huge wealth of experience. He worked in the army. He left as an army general, started his own business as an entrepreneur. He always he made several career shifts along his lifetime. And every single time he was getting something that he didn't know, and he spent time learning about it. So it was always interesting for me sitting there having conversations with him and trying to learn more about it. So even though, our interests in life were not necessarily all the same. So he never played games, for example. My dad never played games. But he was interested in sports. So I got to learn a lot from him when it came to sports. He was definitely interested in politics. He was a very good businessman, and very good when it came to sales. And I understood that he does that by cultivating relationships, and genuinely building relationships. He's not just doing that for the business. So I learned from him that being an entrepreneur, basically, your word means a lot. If you promise something, then comes hell or high water, you should deliver on it. If you can deliver on it, you should deliver on it. And if you can't, then you should go and apologize and explain why you can't deliver on it, and explain how much you can deliver. So I got to learn a lot from him when it came to that. I got to learn from my other mentors as well, looking at them, looking at how they conduct business, look at how they price services, price products, package them, uh, how they manage to actually land deals that are larger
Mm-hmm.
than what they could, what they should have originally landed in the first
Mm-hmm.
place, and all of
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm.
and then delivering on them at the end of the day.
Mm.
So I got to learn a bit of that,
Mm-hmm.
and try to balance sort of both worlds together, making sure that, yes, okay, those are good skills,
Mm-hmm.
good, and good tools to use.
Mm-hmm.
But again, okay, what about the core ethics that I've learned from my dad?
Mm-hmm.
What about, the way how to lead and manage people that I've learned from um, other mentors, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth? And how
Mm-hmm.
can, how can you actually balance that throughout your life to sort of
Mm.
stay true to your essence,
Mm-hmm.
as a human being, as a Muslim, and
Mm-hmm.
as uh, you know, uh, an entrepreneur at the end of the day, where
Mm-hmm.
your word means a lot,
Mm.
and yet be able to deliver and grow.
I see. Actually, and to push this a bit forward, when we spoke even before the podcast, one of the things that was very exciting to me was your work in games. Sort of
Sure.
like after you finished all of this. So talk us
Yes.
through even what happened after all of this. How did you get into games during the game studio thing and all of that? Walk us through into that.
Sure. No, absolutely. So the startup that I started working with in
Mm-hmm.
Egypt sort of grew very quickly. We grew from 7 people to about 2,500 people. Uh,
2,500.
yeah. So I basically, the kind of work that I was doing sort of shifted quickly over
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And the experiences that I had were different. We spun off several businesses. One of them was getting acquired by a large networking company here in the US. I had moved to Canada at the time to sort of work with clients there. Um, and at a certain point in the time, I just wanted to know, um, we grew very quickly. We were flying by the seat of our pants. We were breaking things and trying to fix them along the way. And I wanted to switch to a large corporation to
Mm-hmm.
see, what is it that we did
Mm-hmm.
that actually worked well, and how much of what we did was actually sheer luck that got us there.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined Microsoft at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I left and I joined Microsoft after about 9 years at that
Mm-hmm.
company.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with Microsoft and Microsoft Consulting Services, and it was interesting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that the amount of skills that we
Mm-hmm.
had in
Mm-hmm.
and we had learned in that company
Yeah.
was eons ahead of sort of uh, you know the peers that
Mm-hmm.
that that we had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the discipline, the
Mm-hmm.
process,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of the mechanisms that they use
Yes.
were far ahead of whatever it is that we could come up with and do.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of skill, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
ability to deliver on something, the quality of it and all that,
Mm-hmm.
yes, okay, that was great. But
Yeah.
then there's a lot more that you need for you to
Hmm.
actually be able to produce and develop consistently uh in those large scale environments. So that's something that I really learned from there.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think after about 5 years at Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
I got the itch for being in a smaller environment again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we're working mostly with very, very basically the large government departments in
Mm-hmm.
Canada. The
Mm-hmm.
work was the work was quite interesting at first. I got
Mm-hmm.
I got the chance and the opportunity to work on a very interesting product, trying to secure the online world for kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was super satisfying for me. I felt that I was
Mm-hmm.
doing something useful.
Mm-hmm.
But after working on that for a while, sort of a byproduct of that is that I got a top secret security clearance
Mm-hmm.
because I was working with a lot of law enforcement agencies around the world.
Mm-hmm.
For uh, for my management team at the time, that meant that now they could use me to bid on much on a bunch of other projects because of the clearance that I have that they couldn't bid on before. So I started getting bid on projects, and then eventually, a new project would come up. So they bid me on that project and then replace someone else in there. So I was basically just being used to do that most of the time. And I decided, okay, this wasn't the right thing to do. And I wasn't really interested in that anymore. Starting projects, having somebody else complete it, starting and having someone else complete it. So I went and I wanted to start my own business. So I had a friend of mine from the old company that was the old startup that was working with me, who and we were talking, and at that time there was a new device which I don't think anybody knows it anymore. It was called TiVo, which allowed you to record live TV. So you connect that to your TV, you connect that to your cable. And it was sitting in the middle, and it's basically you would tell it which programs you wanted to record, or eventually it started understanding what you might like, and it would start recording those for you. And the beauty of it was now you could pause live TV, go do something and come back and so on. All these things that everyone takes for granted now. So and IPTV was sort of in the making still at the time. It was it was still in its infancy. So we thought it would be interesting to sort of build a product that allowed operators in the region to sort of sell these services, sell video on demand, start selling additional services, and take that to the Middle East again. We were both, I was in Canada, he was in the US. We came up with this idea. I wanted to take it back. So we started working on this. We started working on the prototype. We went down, we met with a bunch of different providers, and we were looking at a platform to build on. We had built our own prototypes initially on Intel machines, and Intel was coming up with a new media platform, basically, that was going to be the base for set-top boxes. So we went and we talked to Intel, who got really interested in this, and they basically they put out an RFP. We applied for it and we won the bid, and we started working with Intel to build demos, like a demo or what becomes a software package to help people take their hardware and bundle that together. So that got us some funding to continue working on our project. Got to the next stage, and then I went and started talking to VCs. And as I was talking to the VCs, they said, okay, yeah, that's an interesting project. The funding that you require will take us some time to get approved. We found a very interesting team of young developers that are fresh out of school that came and talked to us about building games. So would you be interested in talking to them and seeing what you can do? So I went and started talking with these guys, an amazing group of young people, super energetic, all friends out of school that have been working together for a few years during school, and are working on building games. And started asking them what it is they want to do, and their dream was to actually build first-person shooter games like that are globally renowned and that are being used everywhere. So we started working together on what they have. It was a group of developers, no artists whatsoever, and games sort of requires the combination of both. There was an art team in Colombia that they were sort of that they had a partnership with and they were dealing with. And there was a core team of producers in the US that was basically giving them direction, and they were the ones selling their game. So at that time, the team was working on basically a gaming engine that they had built called Reality. And took Reality, and it was at that point Epic was coming up with Unreal, so they wanted to sort of clear the market, so they decided to acquire Reality at the time.
Interesting.
So they did that. They
Mm-hmm.
acquired the engine because it was getting actually a growing user base.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and in return, we got some Unreal licenses to use as well
Mm-hmm.
as part of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a concept that the team was working on as well, which was
Mm-hmm.
quite interesting with dynamic maps where users could actually break apart pieces of the maps and all that. The game was called
Mm-hmm.
Self Factor, Self Factor Second of course. So um, at that time, uh, that game was basically very rich in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the number of objects that are in the game and
Mm-hmm.
physics.
Mm-hmm.
And NVIDIA was coming up with some of the cards at the time, the GeForce
Mm-hmm.
cards, and they were
Mm-hmm.
looking for demos for their physics engine.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually the perfect storm because Nvidia using the game and contracting the team to actually build a demo for their physics engine at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was super interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and Epic buying the engine as well. That was
Mm-hmm.
super
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to sort of leverage that and go
Mm-hmm.
and sign a publishing deal for the next
Mm-hmm.
version of the title.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and talked to different publishers,
Mm-hmm.
and we got two interested at the time, and we
Mm-hmm.
eventually went with Ubisoft,
Mm-hmm.
um, which was one of the largest publishers at the time in the world. Landed the deal with Ubisoft, then
Mm-hmm.
started talking to Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
and Sony to go through the process and convince them to basically sign us on as a certified studio and give us development machines or dev boxes so that we can start developing for Xbox and PlayStation.
Hmm.
And eventually we became the first studio in the Middle East that was certified on Xbox and PlayStation. With these deals and everything in place,
Mm-hmm.
basically I took that and went back to the VCs, and we were able to secure our first round of financing at the time from them. So that was how basically the first gaming studio in the Middle East got set up at the time. It was quite an interesting time and quite an interesting endeavor. At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I was continuing with the IPTV
Mm-hmm.
business and the hybrid IPTV business,
Yeah.
secured funding for it as well, and
Mm-hmm.
and and set that and set that up in the region. Um, as time went on, we
Mm-hmm.
were dealing with the government
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we started getting asked a bit on government contracts. So
Mm-hmm.
set up a third business that was doing sort of consulting and
Mm-hmm.
services for the
Mm-hmm.
government, working with the army at the
Mm-hmm.
time
Mm-hmm.
primarily.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting time from
Mm-hmm.
going about trying to start a business to
Mm-hmm.
ending up running sort of three different business units, three
Mm-hmm.
different organizations
Mm-hmm.
together
Mm-hmm.
with different teams,
Mm-hmm.
different demands. It
Mm-hmm.
became quite interesting because I realized one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I had the opportunity to sort of work on something, finish it,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to celebrate and realize the success.
Mm-hmm.
When you have several things running at the same time,
Yes.
one of the things that you sort of lose is
Mm-hmm.
the ability to sort of take the time to celebrate successes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is a very, very important thing.
Hmm.
So focus allows
Mm-hmm.
you to do that a lot
Mm-hmm.
more,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever something is completing, there's a
Mm-hmm.
fire somewhere else that you have to run and take care of,
Uh-huh.
and you're
Uh-huh.
not really there for it. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember several times, we had these we'd have a launch event, or we would
Mm-hmm.
have a post-launch party or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, and I would not.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to go for like 5 minutes or something like that and
Hmm.
thank everyone and then run because there's something else going on somewhere else.
Wow. So basically, then now you've gone from playing games to sort of setting up a studio that is now making games, basically. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, That sounds right. Exactly. Full circle there.
From player to maker, basically. Now, when you look back from that time, how games have changed to how like now teenagers play game. Like based on all of this wealth of experience that you have, and I dare to say this company you had was even like before 2010, right? This gaming company. So that's more than
Yes,
like 15 years, close to 20 years now, close to 2 decades. How has games shifted? And how has your own perspective of games, even with your own kids and family, now changed? How has games give us like that perspective and how you're taking that change to direct how you use it with your own family?
sure. I think at their core,
Mm,
games are the same. I
mm,
mean, good engaging gameplay,
mm-hmm,
progression in the gameplay. Like, how
mm-hmm,
can I make this challenging enough without making it frustrating?
mm, mm-hmm,
Uh, how can I get the user to actually progress along in the game and stay
mm-hmm,
engaged?
mm-hmm,
I think one of the things that's happening so one of the major changes and the major shifts that are happening
mm-hmm,
nowadays are
mm-hmm,
longevity. I mean, we're seeing titles stay around for years and years and years and decades in some cases.
mm,
Uh, and it's that ability to continuously invest and reinvest in those titles
mm-hmm,
and sort of grow that.
mm,
When we started playing games, it was all
mm-hmm.
about the gameplay and the
Yes.
engagement. And the thing that really kept us engaged was
Mm-hmm,
how fun that gameplay and progression was, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So, you play the game, uh, it took days or weeks to
mm-hmm,
complete it,
mm-hmm.
depending on how much you play every day.
Yes.
And then at the end, the game was complete and done. You
Mm,
would start playing something else, but then maybe, 2 months or 3 months later, you
mm-hmm.
go back and start all over again.
Yes.
Um, and you also had all these sorts of games where it was the same game but it was getting faster, or as in the gameplay was very simple yet it
Yeah.
was very engaging and you could
Mm,
just play that one repeatedly.
mm-hmm,
um Try to think of chess, for example.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a predefined set of rules. It's very simple, but I mean,
Yes.
every single chess game is different,
Different.
pretty
I see.
much.
I see.
So it's sort of making that balance between
Mm-hmm,
the simplicity
mm-hmm,
and the uh, sort of and the simplicity of the gameplay, yet how
mm-hmm,
engaging it can be in terms of the challenge that it brings to the user and that
mm-hmm,
sense of gratification when they achieve something and then they want to be able to achieve more and more and more and more of that.
mm,
So that's at the core. That
mm-hmm.
core is still there.
Yes.
I think over time,
Mm-hmm,
there's a lot of change that happened. So
mm-hmm,
for a long period of time, there was huge emphasis on the graphics and the
mm-hmm,
how real are they and
mm-hmm.
how realistic does gameplay feel like and all of that.
Yes.
And then with things like Roblox and Minecraft,
Mm-hmm,
that was sort of thrown out the window completely.
mm,
I look at these things and for me it's like the camera angle is all wrong.
mm-hmm,
uh this is just a headache waiting to happen, but
mm-hmm,
yet the gameplay I know is engaging.
mm,
The graphics are too grainy on the screen and they're
mm-hmm,
actually very hard to look at for a long period of time, but
mm-hmm,
the gameplay is super interesting and engaging. As a
mm-hmm,
platform, they're super different, and you can the possibilities are endless in terms of what
mm-hmm,
you can create. So
mm-hmm,
they get very, very interesting for players and
mm-hmm,
users
mm-hmm,
playing with those.
mm,
I enjoy watching them, but for me,
mm-hmm,
it's just for a very short period of time, just because
mm-hmm,
of the jerky camera movements that I
mm-hmm,
can't really. It, I don't enjoy it.
mm-hmm,
I know that I shouldn't be looking at something like that for a long period of time.
mm, mm,
But I know that the gameplay is also super engaging. So it's
mm,
it's super interesting how things that um, have core fundamental features
mm-hmm.
that are somewhat broken compared to
Mm-hmm.
what I know and how I know we should build.
Uh-huh.
Yet they're super successful and super growing because
Mm-hmm.
they focused on other things and made them work really, really well.
Hmm. Interesting. So then, if we're talking about engagement, and we've realized these games are very engaging now, and parents are basically seeing that, right? A lot of parents are seeing their kids like spend a lot of time on doors. Somebody like you who has played game, who has made game, and seen where this progression are. I think that parents fall into two buckets of like whether they want their kids to play these games or not play these games. So, what are your own general thoughts basically around just like games now, especially for like teenagers now?
I think I mean, games are part of life now.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is so I think each thing in life
Yes.
uh, it has something that we can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
But also, as humans, we
Mm-hmm.
have to do that in moderation
Mm-hmm.
because too much of anything, even a good
Mm-hmm.
thing, is bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and to me, that's sort of the thing that I'm trying to do with my kids. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, they can play certain games,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not all games. There are some
Mm-hmm.
games where I can see that okay, there's really no value, or there's um, a lot of things that I don't want them necessarily exposed to in that
Mm-hmm.
game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
be games about theft, games
Mm-hmm.
about gambling, things
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's not appropriate. And there are other ways to spend your time. There are
Mm-hmm.
way too many games out there that you actually don't need to play this one.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time, yeah, you can play games, but you don't have to spend 4 or 5 hours of your day doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can watch YouTube and YouTube shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're going to watch brain rot, then let's limit that to maybe like 10-15 minutes,
Hmm.
and then try to watch something useful
Hmm.
a little bit more.
Hmm.
um, Again, that's the ideal world scenario,
Mm-hmm.
but as a parent, you can't really, you have to push and let go sometimes
Mm-hmm.
as well,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're continuously pushing,
Hmm.
uh, something's going to break, and
Hmm.
you don't want that to break as well.
Hmm.
So, but you want to sort of give advice. You want to try also to uh, teach by example. Like
Hmm.
for example, I don't want my kids seeing me scroll through Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I I'm conscious of doing that where I don't personally spend too much time doing this.
Hmm.
If I'm on the phone, they mostly know that I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if I'm playing games, they know that I'm most probably playing chess or some other
Mm-hmm.
puzzle game,
Mm-hmm.
where I can, yes, it's enjoying. I enjoy playing it, but at the same time, it's stimulating to the brain and it's something useful.
Hmm.
And I won't spend the whole day doing it either. So,
Hmm.
so I think that's sort of the really really tough balance that we have
Mm-hmm.
to strike. Because as human beings, yes, yeah, we need to relax
Mm-hmm.
sometime as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that they need to, and as kids, like after they come back from school, they
Mm-hmm.
want to feel that they're home, that they're in their
Mm-hmm.
safe place. They want to
Mm-hmm.
do something to take their mind off school. So yeah, doing that for a bit makes sense.
I see. So on this podcast, we talk about teens, we talk about tech, and one thing we also talk about is AI. Sort of as all of your experience has shifted from all of this, right? You talk about when you were writing all of this code, even in like assembly and all of that. And I'm sure now when you see what AI is doing in like programming and even in games and all of that, it just makes you like wonder, like, will this kid ever even learn anything? Or like with AI even like doing everything? What's just your own general thoughts around AI, basically in general, like the way you've seen things happen?
Sure. uh yeah, that's kind of funny. So I think, yeah, I mean, with every generation
Mm-hmm.
there's a change, right?
Mm. Yes.
uh but they learn, yes, they will, and they have to. It will
Mm.
just be something different. Like I'll take the analogy. I'll give you the example of looking at code today and
Yes.
knowing the cost of that transaction, how to make it faster, how to make it more optimized,
Yes.
versus, more junior developers not knowing any of that.
Yes.
And this was true 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and it is true today, and it will continue
Mm-hmm.
to be true in the future.
Mm.
So same thing, with AI, like
Mm.
uh, understanding how uh, AI models work and how
Mm-hmm.
LLMs work, for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Mm-hmm.
and what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and how they operate,
Mm-hmm.
and how they actually look, how their responses look so magical at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
is important for people,
Mm.
because then they would know that, yes, okay, there could be a high degree of hallucination in
Mm-hmm.
that response.
Mm-hmm.
For you to actually try to eliminate and minimize that, you have to
Mm-hmm.
ground it in a certain way.
Yes.
There are certain system prompts that you need to feed before you actually get to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best way to actually start developing and building your prompts?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, um, how to build your RAG, as in how do you set the context that
Mm-hmm.
the LM should be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Is this truly something? I mean, I understand, but is this truly something for an LLM today, or can you use something else to do this?
Mm.
Um, if we want to build a new building and we need to demolish an old one,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we can drop a nuclear bomb on the
Mm-hmm.
building,
Yes.
or you can get the right machinery and bring it down. So
Mm.
what are the repercussions of using this to do that today? What are
Mm.
the pros and cons of doing this today?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I know you're way more versed in AI than I am, so 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 that's basic, but
Mm-hmm.
that's basically the idea here. Is
Mm.
yes, certain things can most probably be done a lot faster. Like
Mm.
I'm seeing us, for example, um, having conversations with AI
Mm-hmm.
about certain things and doing the same thing again and again and again at work, even.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Uh, while it would have been most probably a lot more productive, okay, to have a conversation with AI,
Mm-hmm.
to generate a script,
Mm-hmm.
and then use that script down the road to do that thing
Mm.
again and again and again and again.
Mm.
One, it's more cost effective in terms of
Mm-hmm.
computational power,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're doing.
Mm.
Two, it's a lot more predictable in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the outcome and the
Yes.
output. And three, it's verifiable. I can
Mm-hmm.
actually verify that script and make sure that it's running properly, be able to debug it and
Mm-hmm.
instrument it, and so on and so forth. Even using the AI, like I
Mm-hmm.
can use LLM to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But so that, versus me and asking it the question to go and look at this data and verify this and verify that and tell me
Mm-hmm.
what it thinks
Mm-hmm.
every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess that brings me back to what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
Yes, it is impacting, and it will continue to impact
Yeah.
how we do and operate.
Mm-hmm.
But there are different things that people will, us as human beings and newer
Mm-hmm.
generations will have to start learning and start
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it will change the way they learn,
Mm-hmm.
but they still need to learn. They still
Mm-hmm.
need to know, and eventually you still need to know and learn the facts,
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, one, as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
Two, so that you can actually continue to build on this and make it better.
Hmm. I see. So I guess I'm coming towards the end of this. So I'm asking like my last few questions, maybe, hopefully this last question. You were growing up, you were learning about all of this, and you were learning them from like scratch and doing all of those, and you've grown your muscles there. But now with like AI and all of this tech and everything here, when you teach your child or your kid stuff now, like what do you now focus on? Because like if you probably focus on like the scratch part, I'm not like the early part, I'm not sure if they're like, why should we learn this? Why should this be optimized? Like what do you now focus on in what you teach, being somebody who sort of like learned the whole thing from like scratch?
So I think one of the things that I tried starting them with,
Mm.
is when it comes to coding, because I'm actually
Yes.
interested in teaching them a bunch of other things,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily coding per
Yes.
se, or
Mm-hmm.
software development.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to software development, I try to look at, what are um, entry level languages that they can use today,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to sort of learn the basic concepts and start from there.
Mm.
Uh, as in when you move an object, it's actually a bunch of calculations that are happening in the background, and then things are being placed and moved. So things like that.
Mm.
So they started with block programming, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean they graduated to other very simple languages. So yes, they use Scratch at some point in time,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. I think
Mm.
so that is with my uh, oldest child, who's now 13. He
Mm.
got to a point where he got bored with it and stopped coding.
Mm-hmm.
Stop writing code, and
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, if that's something that you don't want to do, that's fine. And
Mm.
he started getting more into, okay, I want to creating content, and trying to create videos, and trying to basically create content online. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, started spending more time trying to teach him, okay, how can you do that while
Mm-hmm.
still maintaining your privacy,
Mm-hmm.
while not giving out information about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and how can you do that without being impacted, while maintaining good mental health and not being
Mm-hmm.
impacted by what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, and
Mm-hmm.
not getting sort of addicted to how many likes did I get, and
Mm.
going in and checking regularly and all that. So it was
Mm.
a sort of a different thing. And with my youngest, he's mostly playing games, but recently as well, he started getting interested. And it's like, okay, I want to build this new game with my friend. So
Mm-hmm.
I have this piece of code and it's not working. Can you help me with that? And you go and look
Mm.
at it, and it's like, yeah, okay, there's an infinite loop here.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're trying to do exactly? Let's try to
Mm-hmm.
structure this differently. Do you know what this does? Here's how it works. This
Mm-hmm.
is why it's doing this in the background, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. And then we can take it from there. That's it. But what I'm really interested in teaching them is teaching them
Mm-hmm.
about the things that we don't really learn, that they don't learn about in school, and we've never learned
Mm.
about in school. Like, okay, uh, how do you run and manage a business? How do
Mm-hmm.
you, how can you actually run your life? How do you manage your financials?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And them being away from home, I'm
Mm-hmm.
also trying to continuously teach them about uh, the language and the religion, because they
Mm-hmm.
need the language to be able to understand a little bit of what they read as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the ongoing struggles as well. Those are the things that I'm trying to teach them more than coding today.
Wow, it's actually very interesting. I think I'm going to end with this as the last question. How has sort of like you be yourself being Muslim played a role in all of this? And how are you sort of like trying to make that something that also becomes like a founding block for them in what they do?
Uh, I think uh, it sort of grounds you,
Mm-hmm.
having I mean, being a Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
alhamdulillah, having grown up in a house where, I've seen that, and I've seen my parents, and I've seen how they conducted themselves, and
Mm.
how basically, regardless. So I come from a family where, we don't necessarily publicize what we do,
Mm-hmm.
which as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So I never knew how charitable my dad was until I heard
Mm-hmm.
it from other people that he helped afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that was one thing that I
Mm-hmm.
sort of learned from him. I
Mm.
think all of that, and the way he conducted himself, the way I saw him conduct himself in business,
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to actually uh, make a lot of very critical decisions in my life. I had,
Mm.
unfortunately, in business, you will, or in life in general, you're going to come across several opportunities where, yes, there's opportunity to make a lot of money or be
Mm-hmm.
successful at something.
Mm-hmm.
But is this really the right thing to do? Is
Mm.
this the ethical thing to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And alhamdulillah, I think that's one thing that sort of helped me a lot there.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
uh you know uh Grounding you to help you do the right thing, not necessarily go after the easy money,
Mm.
regardless of the consequences. And that's, if I would leave anyone with anything, it would be
Mm-hmm.
this. I mean, what really, I don't want to say what differentiates us, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the benefits, alhamdulillah, of being a Muslim is that
Mm.
that is core to us.
Mm.
uh, and hopefully it's something that we keep in the back of our mind. It's like, Is this the best thing for the community? Is this the best thing for other humans? Is this the best
Hmm.
thing for the world?
Hmm.
Yes, it can generate tons of revenue, but should I
Hmm.
be working on this in the first place?
Hmm.
Those are some of the core things that we should definitely do, and hopefully, as human beings as a whole,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
something that people should be thinking of.
Wow. Jazakumullah khairan, Ahmed. Thank you so much.
As I know,
I
Iyak.
really love this. I know I gave you an hour mark, but I think we even spent past that. But thank you so much for staying by. Really
No,
appreciate it.
it's my pleasure, Aziz. Thank you, and jazakallah kull khair, and thanks a
Jazakumullah
lot for this
khairan.
opportunity. And again, thank you for doing this and doing this amazing work for our teens and for our community. Thanks, brother.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so
Alhamdulillah.
much. I'll talk to you soon then.
Inshallah. Thank
Assalamu
you.
alaikum.
Talk to you and see you soon. Alaikum.